Yes, the title is true and I live by it. I genuinely can't remember the last time that I used a debit card for daily spend, but I mean, it must have been like 5 years ago whenever I got my first credit card. Since then, I've aimed to maximize every single dollar that I spend in ways that many people would find trivial. But in doing so, I've been able to travel to places I never thought I would see, in luxury I never thought I would experience, and saved well over $50,000, all just from switching what I use at checkout. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly why I only use credit cards for everyday spend, where a debit card still fits into my strategy, and most importantly, who should and should not be doing the same. Let's start with that last point and address the biggest pushback that I'm going to get from this video, which I completely agree with, by the way. There is a large percentage of people who should actually do the complete opposite of me and never touch a credit card. Credit cards, when used irresponsibly, are one of the most predatory products in our financial system. These days, 35% APR on a credit card, it's not uncommon, unfortunately. And while that number already sounds insane, it's actually probably worse than you think. And here's the biggest trap that comes up with credit cards. Most people, whenever they go to pay their credit card off, see an option to pay the minimum payment of, say, $30 and think, well, why would I pay my full $800 statement off whenever I can just make a minimum payment of $30? I mean, it's called the minimum payment for a reason, so everything should be fine, right? Wrong, actually. The moment that you pay anything less than your full statement balance off, you start accruing interest on the rest. And because that interest continues to compound month over month, a $1,000 balance at 35% APR, where you're only making minimum payments, won't just cost you that $350 in interest as you might expect. It's going to cost you over $2,000, which is more than double what you had already spent on those purchases, and it's going to take over 5 years to pay off. That's the exact spiral that puts people on the Dave Ramsey or Caleb Hammer show. Luckily, avoiding this is really simple though. All you need to do is whenever you get a credit card, set up autopay for your statement balance, and as long as enough money is in the bank account linked to autopay, you'll never pay anything in interest, and the APR becomes completely irrelevant to you. This is the exact strategy that I've used to have over 25 credit cards and have never paid the bank a penny in interest. The most straightforward advice that I can really give here is to only use a credit card exactly like you would a debit card. That means you should only spend on that card what you could pay off today if you had to, and never treat your credit card like it's free money. It isn't. The charge not being pulled from your bank account immediately, like a debit card, does not mean that the money isn't gone. Bottom line though, if you're honest with yourself and you know that you struggle with overspending or managing your finances, don't get a credit card. The debt will cost you way more over the long run than any rewards you would ever earn. Now, speaking of rewards, let's get into the 3 main reasons that I use a credit card for all of my daily spend. The first and foremost being the rewards that you earn on everyday purchases. Whenever you use a debit card, you get absolutely nothing in return. But with a credit card, depending on which card you're using and where you're shopping, you'll usually be earning anywhere from, I would say, 2 to 5% back on that exact same transaction. Again, to some people, that number sounds trivial. But when you add that up over every single purchase you make over years and years, it's a big deal. Let's say you spend a total of $4,000 a month on rents, groceries, dining, gas, and subscriptions. Well, each one of those categories, including rent now, can be captured at anywhere from 1 to, let's say, 5x back. For the sake of simplicity, let's say all of that averages out to 2% back on all purchases, which is a low estimate if you know how to maximize your cards and your points. You'd be netting $80 back every month. Multiply that over a year, and that's nearly $1,000 just from switching, again, what card you use at the register. Now stack that over 10, 20, or 30 years, and that's $30,000 that you've left on the table, not even counting the compound interest if you were to put those rewards into a high yield savings account or brokerage account. By the way, on that topic, either click into this video next or check out the link in the description to find the best high yield savings out there right now, including my favorite, SoFi. Back to the topic at hand though, that 2 to 5% return on everyday spending is great, but it's honestly the baseline. The real acceleration from credit cards comes from sign-up bonuses. These are offers that the banks are going to use to entice you to applying for one of their cards, and the requirements are generally really simple. You just need to spend a certain amount of money in the first few months of having the card, and they'll drop a massive points bonus into your account. Take the Chase Sapphire Preferred, one of the most popular credit cards of all time, which at the time of filming, has an elevated offer of 100,000 points for $5,000 in spend over 3 months. To earn that same 100,000 points through everyday categories at, again, an average of 2% back, you would need to spend $50,000, not $5,000. So you can see how this scale is just ridiculous. At a minimum too, those 100,000 points are going to be worth $1,000 in cash back, which means for that $5,000 in spend, you get a 20% return. Depending on how you use those points though, you can push that to 40% or more, meaning that, people like myself are effectively paying 40% less for the same purchases that somebody using a debit card is making. Now imagine repeating that cycle across a bunch of new cards. That's exactly how Someone like myself, in my 20s, without kids, a mortgage, or the kind of spending that most adults have accumulated 2,107,500 points from welcome offers alone. Now, 25 plus welcome offers have been no small feat to track, but luckily, basically since I started my credit card journey, I've used Max Rewards. Max Rewards is an all-in-one credit card management app that allows you to track all of the important information about all of your credit cards, no matter what lender they come from, in one convenient interface. With their free tier, you can see all of your reward balances, card balances, credit utilizations, bill due dates, transactions, credit scores, and even access the best card tool that tells you exactly what card to use where. And while that was great by itself, I personally decided to upgrade to Max Rewards Gold a few years back to access even more features, including the auto offer activation tool that has saved me more than $350 this year alone, the benefits tracker tab, the card value tab, and pertinent to this topic, the bonus trackers. This tool will tell you exactly how much money and how many days you have left to hit the minimum spending requirement for your welcome offer. And this is essential to do if obviously you want to play the game like I do, and not many lenders give you an easy way to track this. I wonder why. At the same time, though, I completely understand if you're hesitant to sign up for a paid version of an app right away. So go ahead and just try out the free version using either the QR code on screen or the link in my description, maxrewards.com/Spencer. And when you sign up and use my code Spencer, you'll lock in a 25% discount off of Max Rewards Gold if you ever decide to upgrade to it. So go ahead and put that in your back pocket. Big thank you to Max Rewards for sponsoring this video, as always, but let's jump back into it. But Spencer, while 2.1 million points is great, isn't that only worth $21,000 in cash back, like you just mentioned? That doesn't match the $50,000 plus that you said in the intro. So what's going on? Well, I'm glad you asked, Timmy. First, those 2.1 million points are only from welcome offers, not counting everyday spend outside of welcome offers, retention offers that I've gotten, or referral bonuses from the kind people who use my links below to apply for cards. But more important than that, because of the knowledge that I have in the points and miles world, my points are not just worth the cashback redemption rate of 1 cent per point. I've consistently averaged 2+ cents per point year to year, traveling in ways I never initially thought possible. A great example of that is last year when I took my girlfriend on a 10-day trip to Italy. A trip to Italy by itself was unattainable to me years ago, so that alone is already crazy, but this also was not a normal trip by any means. We flew there and back in lie-flat business class seats, getting to sleep on those long-haul flights, which was a game changer, and stayed at hotels pushing $1,000+ per night, which obviously we would never be able to afford normally. Adding up all of the travel costs from that trip, the cash price would have been a whopping $18,907. But thanks to the points that I redeemed, what I actually paid out of pocket was $917 in taxes and fees. I am not telling you this to brag, by the way. I'm telling you because that's what's possible when you spend 5 years treating every dollar as an opportunity to earn. None of that happens if you're swiping a debit card. The second reason I use a credit card for everything is the protections and insurance that you get, and this one is massively underrated. Let's start with what I think is the most important here. Fraud protection. Whenever you pay with a debit card, you are spending your own money directly out of your bank account. The moment that transaction goes through, that money is gone from your account. While that's great for somebody who has a problem with overspending, it has huge downsides too. And the biggest is if someone were to steal your card info and start making fraudulent charges. Why? Because they're draining your actual bank account. That's your rent money, your savings, all of it. Yes, your bank may eventually reimburse you for fraud, but that process can take days or weeks, and in the meantime, that money is just gone. With a credit card, on the other hand, you're spending the bank's money, not yours. Your money from your bank account isn't touched at all until you pay your bill off at the end of the month. But of course, fraud can still happen, and it does all the time. The important caveat is that, again, it's the bank's money at risk, not your own, and disputing it is as simple as a quick phone call. The bank investigates, generally just removes the charge, and your money was never touched to begin with. And also, rather than that person having access to all of your bank information, they just compromised one credit card, which is easily replaceable. In my opinion, that buffer alone is reason enough to never use your debit card when you don't have to, but especially for online purchases. Oh, and by the way, there's a side benefit here too. Since you have around a 30-day grace period to pay off your credit card bill, you're naturally going to have more cash compounding interest in a high yield savings or brokerage account, bettering your financial situation as a whole, which I know can get people into trouble if they're not paying off their cards, but at this point, I'm assuming that you are responsible. Beyond fraud though, credit cards come with a suite of purchase and travel protections that most people don't even know that they have. On the retail side, cards like the Amex Platinum offer 90-day purchase protection, meaning if something you bought gets damaged or stolen within 90 days, you're covered up to $10,000 per claim in this case. They also offer extended warranty protection, adding up to 1 additional year on top of the manufacturer's warranty, and return protection, where if a retailer won't accept your return, Amex will refund you up to $300 per item. I've had plenty of people in my community reach out telling me that they've been able to justify that crazy $895 Amex Platinum annual fee, all because they've dealt with a situation like I just outlined, and Amex covered their charge with no issue. That's something that a debit card just wouldn't have helped them out with at all. And then there are the travel protections, which are honestly game-changing, especially if you're traveling frequently. I would say that anybody who travels will tell you that it's not a matter of if a negative travel experience will happen to you, it's a matter of when. And when that time comes, you're going to want to be fully protected. All of the premium travel cards like the Amex Platinum, Chase Sapphire Reserve, and Capital One Venture X, which I would not recommend jumping into without knowing a lot more about them, but I have plenty of videos on my channel if you're curious. All of those have a long list of travel protections and insurances. Focusing in on the Venture X here, which is a more like attainable product for most. With it, you're going to get trip cancellation and interruption insurance, covering you up to $2,000 per person if your trip gets canceled for a covered reason. They also include trip delay reimbursement, where if your flight is delayed more than 6 hours, the card is going to cover your meals, hotels, and other expenses while you wait, up to $500 per passenger. And then lost or delayed baggage coverage is included too. So if the airline loses your bags, you're not just at their mercy. And don't even get me started about the rental car insurance. This one is the one that saves people a ton of money over time. Instead of paying $30+ a day at the counter for the rental company's coverage, your card is going to cover it automatically when you pay with it. And with a primary auto rental collision damage waiver, if, God forbid, you get in a wreck, the card's insurance would kick in before your personal would, covering you at up to $75,000 and shielding you from rate increases on your personal insurance and all of that. All of the things that I just listed are what most people, including myself, honestly never think about until, unfortunately, something goes wrong. And when it does, the difference between having a credit card and not could be the difference between a really quick phone call or a really bad day, month, or even years, depending on the situation. The third reason that I always use a credit card for daily spend goes beyond the transactions themselves. And this is probably the most obvious one. Using credit cards responsibly is one of the best ways to build your credit score. Every single time that you use your credit card and pay it off on time, that gets reported to the credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and works directly in your favor. On the contrary, debit card transactions are never reported, meaning that years of using one responsibly is going to build zero credit history. I will note that there are some newer debit card products out there that do claim to build credit, but they're the exception here, not the rule. I'm speaking to your standard debit card from like Chase or Bank of America. Without going too far into the weeds here, payment history alone accounts for 35% of your credit score, which is the single biggest factor. And the easiest way to start reporting on-time payment history without getting stuck with like a bigger loan, such as student loans, car payments, etc., is by paying off your credit card on time and in full every single month. Now, why does any of this even matter though? It's because your credit score is going to follow you into some of the biggest financial decisions of your life. Getting an apartment, buying a car, and getting a mortgage. All of these involve someone pulling your personal credit report. And the difference between even a good score and a great score can mean thousands of dollars saved over the course of a loan. I have a personal example of this actually that I do think about quite a bit. When I was, I guess like 22, 23, honestly can't remember, I financed my Toyota 4Runner through a credit union. And by the way, I did pay that one off early this year, so yay. But yeah, when the loan officer pulled my credit back then, they seemed like really surprised and like straight up asked me how I had such a good credit score at my age. With my score, I qualified for their lowest available rate, which I think was about 4.7% back then, something most people in my demographic just couldn't get close to. And that was all thanks to me spending a couple of years treating my credit cards the right way, not having my utilization rise like crazy, and I paid them off every single month. And if I hadn't used a credit card and I just had been using a debit card that whole time, I would have had none of that positive credit history. And when I went to apply for that loan, I could have been stuck with 15% interest or more compared to that 4.7% that I got. Now, to be fair here, it is technically possible to live without a credit score in the US. I mean, Dave Ramsey has built an entire empire around that. You can buy a home with manual underwriting, pay cash for cars, and avoid borrowing altogether. And for some people, that works. But it is objectively harder. You're going to need larger down payments, more documentation, and not every lender is going to want to work with you. For most people in the US, a strong credit score just is going to make life easier and cheaper, and credit cards are the most straightforward way to build that. Okay. I've been crapping on debit cards this whole video, but I would be lying if I said that they didn't serve some purpose in my broader financial strategy. There are a handful of situations when reaching for your debit card or going straight to ACH or cash is actually the smartest move. And the most obvious one of those is ATMs. Whenever you need cash, you're going to need to use your debit card. This one's like a non-negotiable. If you were to use your credit card at an ATM, you'd be taking out what's called a cash advance, and it's one of the worst things that you can do with a credit card. Unlike regular purchases, cash advances will start accruing interest immediately, and the cash advance APR is typically a lot higher than your regular purchase APR, often sitting at like 25 to 30%, where normal credit card average might be in that like 20% range. On top of that, most cards charge a cash advance fee of 3 to 5% of the amount withdrawn with a minimum of $10. And to make it worse, if you really needed that, you earn 0 rewards on cash advances. So between all of those things, using a credit card at an ATM is just literally throwing money away. So you should always use your debit card here. For those wondering too, I use the debit card attached to my Fidelity cash management account, which in my opinion is the best checking account and debit card combo out there. And I talk about it in a lot more depth in this video if you want to watch that after. The second situation where I would use a debit card is if a merchant charges a credit card surcharge. This is something we're starting to see more and more of with how high the credit card interchange fees have gotten. But basically, this is where stores will sometimes charge an extra 2 to 3% fee if you opt to pay with a credit card instead of a debit card. So if that fee that they're charging is higher than the rewards that you would earn on that transaction, you're generally better off paying with debit. I would argue too that if those fees kind of just wipe out the rewards that you're getting, but they match each other, it's better to use that credit card for all of the reasons that we've already talked about. But yeah, every once in a while, it can make sense to use a debit card for those transactions. And then the third reason is peer-to-peer payments. So I'm talking like apps like Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, and PayPal, where most of them either don't accept credit cards at all, so that solves the issue for you, or they charge a fee steep enough to wipe away all the rewards that you would earn. Venmo, for example, charges a flat 3% fee whenever you fund it with a credit card. And also, some of these can even code as cash advances depending on your card, bringing to play the same fees that we talked about a second ago. So that's exactly a situation where I have my SoFi debit card attached to Venmo to avoid any fees or anything like that. The only other historical debit or ACH transaction that we all have is housing. Most of the apartment portals, landlords, or mortgage lenders will only allow you to use your bank account ACH numbers, and that's that. However, Built has come in and changed the game entirely. They've built, pun intended, credit card products that let you earn rewards on rent and even mortgage payments now, routing the payment through ACH numbers that they provide you, so it never actually shows up as a credit card charge. And honestly, at this point, if you aren't paying your housing cards with Built, even if you don't have a Built card, you can still just use the Built Rewards platform. That's a significant amount of spend that you're leaving unrewarded. So outside of those 3 specific use cases, ATMs, merchant fees, and peer-to-peer transactions, I am always using a credit card. And I'd recommend those of you who are responsible to do the same thing. And heck, maybe after doing that, I'll see you on one of our trips here pretty soon. If you're looking to get your feet wet in the credit card game, then I would highly recommend you check out this video next, where I break down how to win without high spend. And as always, Odin and I both really appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and using all the links in my description so that we can eat tonight. And with that said, we'll catch you guys next time.